Hello. Today I'd like to talk about the House of the Dragon and Putin's war. So basically, we'll be comparing the two and trying to see how they compare and how the inspiration that George R. R. Martin has of real world history actually plays out even in the real world, in reality, to be frank. When we look at George R. R. Martin's books, we realize one aspect that I believe he has also pointed out the fact that most of his stories are based on reality. I think that's the reason why they captivate us so much because history is indeed filled with a lot of drama and violence and a lot of death. Well, death, the defining aspect of all history. Every great leader, every great sage, every commoner, everyone experienced it. So it is no surprising that it's so common in his books, and it's all sudden usually because even in the whole world, death is so sudden. So let's begin with the Icon the Conqueror, a man who sailed from old Valyria and set at Dragonstone. A story that is strange, maybe, but not that strange. The fact that there have been conquerors in even hero history, and there will be conquerors even more as we go even to the future. The greatest fallacy, I believe, about people right now is the fact that they feel the age of conquest is over. I don't think it is. The only question is what type of conquest, maybe, what tools. But human beings, the psychology is still the same. They want to conquer something, and they will. Who knows what 50 years from now people will be doing? Maybe we'll be back in dark ages and people will be fighting each other for scraps, whatever is left after all the climate change. So, the first thing we'd like to look at is Putin's war. How is it portrayed in this particular series? How is it portrayed in the events that are unfolding before our very eyes in this drama, The House of the Dragon? Well, first of all, we have two sides that are being born, should you say. We have the Greens and we have the Blacks, all Targaryens who rule over Westeros. What a beautiful name, Westeros. Well, I find it uncanny that Westeros actually is very similar phonetically to the West. That's a clever one, George R. R. Martin. Also quite obvious. He's talking about the Western world. So, here we are talking about the Western world divided. Whether you ask whether Russia is the West or not is neither here or there. Maybe it's in Asia, who knows? But no, it is literally a part of Western history. It is a part of Western history. Russia is a part of Western history. The Soviet Union is a part of Western history. So who are they? Are they the blacks? Is Russia the blacks? Hmm. Or is it the greens? Who knows? But the fact is, the Martin is quite clever. And when you're talking about Westeros, we're literally just talking about a fantastical aspect or a fantastical fictional world that is based on the Western world. So here we have Westeros, as it is called, being ruled by one, one dynasty, the Targaryens. Um, let's look at the Targaryens for a moment. They're one family. They have different places where they reign, and they have different characters. They have different dragons. Let's put the dragons as um, countries. Let's say that. But then the thing is, they all belong to one family. And in reality, if you look at the leaders of this world, they don't belong to one family, but they do belong to one group, and they belong to one class, should we say. And this class is very, very familiar. I believe the same investment tactics, the same political tactics, the same military tactics that are applied by Putin are the same military tactics that are applied by all Western countries. Not only just one Western country, almost all of them. For instance, we talk of the intelligence agencies that they have. They apply literally the same tactics. Military as well, it's the same. In fact, their development is almost the same, right? So you realize for a fact that these guys are literally the same, right? They have no regard for the commoner's life. Even though we, as commoners, we give alliances to these individuals. We give alliances to these particular armies and call them nations. But these guys literally don't see that. They only see power. They only see their palaces. They only see their dragons. So the particular aspect, if you can look at it, we can say that if Putin was in Westeros, he would actually own the biggest dragon. And the second biggest dragon would be America. We're talking about military might. We're talking about air power. We're talking about space technology here. We're talking about nukes, right? So all that is condensed into military might, and that is condensed into a dragon, right? But the problem with Putin's dragon is the fact that it has not much experience in terms of invasion, because, well, it's been so long since anyone invaded anyone. Oh wait, it's not been that long. Huh. We have another beast in the east, or is it in the west? The America. It invades countries all the times. Of course, that is for you know, quenching terroristic threats, right? Well, it's almost the same thing. It's invasion, nonetheless. It leads to death and economic woes. So, like I say, all the Targaryens are the same. They only see power. They don't see the commoners. They might, for instance, say, attacking you because there's a night walker out there, you know? And if I don't attack you and rule this realm, you will die. But that is it. That is actually the basis for leadership, for political will of the commoners. The fact that we're always convinced that these guys will save us from something. They'll save us from climate change, right? So if you look at George Martin's books, you realize one thing. Above all the political conundrum and all the political whatever that is happening, there's a threat that is unseen, invisible, that is coming. It's called the Night Walkers or the Long Winter, as it is called. But the fact is, in real life, it's an allegory for the invisible threats that are facing humanity. We're talking about diseases, we're talking about climate change. There are many, 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 many invisible threats that are coming our way. And we do not know when they will come. We do not know how they will come, but know that they are coming. And we are convinced that we have to unite so that we should thwart these threats, They're coming quickly. And if we do not take care, they'll wipe us out. But that is the problem right there. The issue is these guys have found this as an excuse, right? In fact, you realize that only Viserys and Rhaenyra are the only ones who know about the Night Walkers or some invisible threat that is coming in the future. In the present series, all the others don't know, and they're only thinking that the throne is for power. I believe probably our world leaders, there's only one or two who actually pay attention to the climate change, but everyone else just wants power. They want to rule the world. Looks at the fall of the Soviet Union, for instance, as a tragedy, when probably it was about economic wealth. Everyone wants it. Communism was birthed as a solution for the inequalities, for the problems that are facing people. People wanted a better distribution of wealth, better distribution of food and basic needs. So it is not about power for the people. They do not vote for power. They do not do all this process for power. They only want to live in harmony, But then I believe there are only a few leaders that actually think about that. All the other leaders are only bent on power. Putin is only bent on power. He does not see the harm that he has caused to the common people. If he did, he would have stopped the war by now, but he doesn't. That's the comparison that we see between Westeros and the Western world, or the world in general. These squabbles are not limited to Westeros, right? Probably all the other realms in George R. R. Martin's fictional world are facing the same issues, right? So here we are looking at reality and looking at fantasy and seeing almost the same forces being exhibited. I believe that's the genius of George R. R. Martin. I think that's why these books are bestsellers, because they are well-rounded, showing the dynamics of human beings, and the fact that not only the strong don't always win, the tricksters don't always win, right? But one thing always wins in the end: death. Death wins, because we're all, whether we like it or not, marching towards it. And he who wields death wields the realms. That's why the Night Walker is such a scary concept, because it is coming. It can raise the dead. It wields over death. The fact that climate change is coming for all of us, the fact that whether you're a Targaryen or a Lannister or any weird house doing a weird story in Westeros, you can be raised by the Night King to fight your own kin, and you can still succumb to his, power. It's a very scary thought. All of us right now, right, whether we like it or not, have been affected by Putin's war. Maybe it's not Putin's war, maybe it's NATO's war. Maybe what is happening in the Game of Thrones is actually what is happening in the real world. The fact that NATO can as easily be the manipulators of all this, just as Putin might be the manipulator of all these things. tricksters in the world exist. And who do we know as the tricksters? We do not. But we know as a fact that George R. R. Martin, in his cleverness, in his artistry, has brought to life a world that is so much like our own, so much full of threats and full of drama and full of all these violent and senseless wars over weddings and alliances. And who are we to doubt the fact that marriage for the privileged or the wealthy is just another game to them, to cement their power, to cement their wealth? It's not a far off a concept to think of it, because in history it has been the case. It's been the case that queens and kings that exist even today have done that throughout history. And people are like maybe the days of monarchy are over. I don't think they are. I think we are living in an age where the monarchies are hiding behind the veil of democracy. You talk of the constitutional monarchies. They exist all over Europe, even in Britain, God save the Queen. May her soul rest in peace. But she was a part of that. She is a monarchy. And she enjoyed it for the rest of her life. I mean, she did not have to have, the struggle that we commoners have to experience. She was born in wealth. She was born in privilege. Yeah, there was constitutional monarchies, and she never had to say much, but she ate our taxes. Whose tax was she spending? Ours. Did we vote for her? No, we did not. But yeah, we hide behind the veil of constitutional monarchies because she never did much of the ruling, right? But she was there. She experienced and she lived a whole 90 years. I mean, behind the backs of all the taxpayers, our grandparents, our fathers. She never had to struggle for anything. So monarchies still exist and they still have all the privilege that they had. In fact, right now they even have a better privilege. They don't have the burden of ruling. They can just sit there and eat all the money. So which monarchy is better? I believe all the monarchs in history would actually envy these monarchs that are there in the 21st century, because they had to really ruin, wage wars. These guys don't. Our monarchies don't. They're just there eating money. I mean, what better way to live than just eat someone's money for the rest of your life without actually putting in an effort? So we can talk about that later. But the fact is, George R. R. Martin put this really neat. He's reflecting what is really happening in the world. That the ruling class, or whatever we can call it, these guys only see dragons and they only see their own power struggles. They don't see the battles of the commoner. They don't see the impending threat upon their world. The only ones that are seeing that are only few. In Westeros, there are only 2 Targaryens right now who know about the Night Walkers and the coming winter, the long winter, or as it is called. These are the only 2 guys that are seeing this. And even for the High Towers, they don't know that, but they're really, really busy trying to usurp the throne from Rhaenyra. And they will succeed. Definitely will. Because they're more motivated. They're more motivated because they have no empathetic aspect to their cravings for power. I've always felt that people who are empathetic towards things, who are passionate, sometimes they are usually the biggest losers because they do not they are not as greedy for that particular thing as the people who are not empathetic, right? They see, if I am an empathetic person and I acquire power, I'll have an incentive to distribute it more. When someone who is greedy and does not actually understand the empathetic aspects still keep the power to themselves, so they are more likely to succeed because they're greedy with power. Only people who are greedy with power really succeed with power. People who share it around, they usually lose it. That's the way of the world. It's a kind of twisted um, irony of power that those who are more psychopathic, more have the more ability to keep the power than people who are more empathetic. We talk of the Stalins of this world, people who literally cemented their power and their glory and created an empire so fierce and so feared that even its embers today, you know, it makes us uh, quiver. I mean, it makes us to fear and feel a sense of dread just thinking about the Russians, for instance, that they're coming for us. You know, it's something that the media so much uses, the sense of fear, the fact that we know for a fact that if someone who is a strong man rules a country that has so much wealth and so much power, he can literally do anything to the world order that he wants, and there's literally nothing we can do. He owns the dragons, he owns the nukes, he owns the military uh, air power and space power or technologies that we will never dream of. Just think for a minute as a commoner in George R. R. Martin's Westeros, and you do not know the sorcery that can make you wield a dragon, and you're not a Targaryen by birth or whatever they call it. You will never wield a dragon. In fact, not only will you never wield a dragon, even to own a palace is beyond the dreams, right? This is how it feels like in the real world. We will never own even one nuke. We don't. Most Africans, most Europeans, most Asians will never know how the technology of nukes works. Actually, it's just a small number of individuals that know how those things work, right? So literally, they are powerless in the face of the knowledge that there is someone out there who holds the power to make them disappear at the touch of a button. That's how we live in this world. And George R. R. Martin has actually captured it beautifully, right? So beautifully. In fact, if you look at it, all the heroes that we love, all the people that we love, you know, we talk of Alexander the Great, we talk of these great whatever leaders and emperors. If you were in their courts, you would be nothing. They would kill you in a minute and you would disappear. Your name would not even be written on in wars, right? That's how people, commoners in Westeros live. Like, they literally, they don't even exist in the face of these people. They're just tools to be used, armies. Think of all the people in history that fought all those armies. They were like you and me, but their names are lost in history. We talk of the First World War, Second World War, yeah, the monuments of people that fought in those wars. But who right now can mention even 10 of them? No one. They're lost, just as stories bundled together, meaningless to us because we are living our own lives, doing our own things. And George R. R. Martin has captured that so beautifully. That's why I like the Song of Ice and Fire. That's why I like um, all the series and all the books and all the, you know, all the worlds that George R. R. Martin has created, because they reflect so much upon history, upon our history, and also upon our present. Because whether you belong to the West or you belong to the East or you belong to whatever kingdom, if these guys start a war and you are part of that war and you die today, No one will remember you. You're literally nothing, you see? Only concepts and stories to be told. And even one line, you do not even have one line. But your whole immediately just abandoned it to one war, you know. There was a nuke that went over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Fat Boy, and whatever names they gave those bombs, but who can even mention one name of of the individuals that died in, let's say, the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima? No one. Well, at least you have to look it up, maybe in the archives. But that's already a wasted time. I mean, even after you read it, you'd forget the next day. That's literally it. I mean, only the stories of the strong houses remain. You know, you talk of House Lannister. You talk of all the houses that are there. You know, the Starks. Only their stories remain. The stories of the people who fought in their battles. They don't remain. You don't even know their names, right? That's the story of reality, and that's the story of fantasy. That's where they meet. That's where George R. R. Martin's books are. That's why they're so captivating, because even as we see this show, we realize that these people are bent on fighting for power, and they will destroy themselves while they fight for power, while the real threat looms large, the threat of climate change, the threat of global warming, and the threat of nuclear Armageddon. There are bigger threats that are facing humanity, like the threat of a cataclysm like happened during the days of the dinosaurs, when all of them went extinct. You know, the asteroids somewhere there that are out there that might actually fall upon us someday. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 1,000 years. But those are threats that we must be thinking about, and how we prevent the human race from going into oblivion, you know. The expanding sun, or our own mutations as the force of evolution, you know, presses down upon us. It's not because the force of evolution is not a linear force. There's devolution and evolution. In fact, as history has shown, the size of the human brain has started to decrease. Is that a big issue? Is that not a big issue? Who knows? Nobody cares. But the fact is, we won't always be at our best. And the threats to civilization are so many. They're so numerous right now. Those are the issues that we must be focusing on, not political squabbles, not the might of Russia or the might of Ukraine or the might of NATO. These things don't matter. These things are excuses created by the political elites so that people who matter, the commoners' lives, they're overshadowed by those beastly concepts. So George R. R. Martin puts this very beautifully. Right? We see this in the House Targaryen. These guys so much bent on wielding their power that they forget that there is a reason why they're fighting for this. A dream. One of their forebears who foretold that there is a coming long winter that, from the north, that will devastate everyone. And it is common that they're united to fight that. But that union, that throne that was created for that, it has been reduced to political squabbles that don't even matter. Just looking for power without actually doing anything to stop the threats that are coming. So right now, if we were to ask ourselves, does Putin, in his particular war right now, does the NATO in their particular wars right now, prepared to invest as much as they have invested in that particular war? Are they prepared to invest as much in the climate change efforts? You find that no. What about all the disasters, the famines, and the famine that is happening, the famines that are happening all around the world, the disasters that are fighting around the world? Are they prepared to be as organized and to invest as much money into those particular efforts? You find that it is a vehement no. That is a subject of George R. R. Martin's books. That the passions for power that these elites have, if a fraction was put into preventing, the impending doom or the impending crisis that are facing our world, the world would be much better off. But no one gives a damn. No one cares because they don't care. And it's incumbent upon the commoners to understand that fact. That these leaders don't care about this. They only care about power. They don't care about climate change. They don't care about that. They don't care about the coming crisis for, let's say, the shortages of particular minerals that will be very important for, a high technological society. That is incumbent upon this generation to mine the asteroids. Otherwise, the minerals that are there, the quota that is there is so small. It cannot sustain us for long. It will run out pretty soon. All these, we're in the age of high mass consumption, and we'll find ourselves short of a lot of valuable minerals pretty soon, because these minerals are very important for a high life, a high technological society. It is incumbent upon us to unite, let's say, to mine the asteroids and get more minerals, because the ones that we have, are pretty small. They're going to end pretty soon. It's not just about the minerals, even water. Fresh water is going to run out pretty soon. We have to be talking about desalinating water. There are many issues to be solved right now, but these political elites are not looking at that. That's exactly why George R. R. Martin wrote those books, because in that fantasy world we see all the political pandering and the focus on trivial matters, when there is a larger issue looming upon that whole throne or that whole Westeros realm, as we call it. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the House of the Dragons. We see now the self-destruction. We will see in the house, in the Dance of the Dragons, the destruction that this lust for power creates, instead of building and fighting worthy causes, just fighting among themselves and creating destruction instead of beauty. This is something we will see in the House of Dragons. And that is my conclusion, that there is so much similarities between the House of the Dragon and our real world. And that is shown by what we're seeing right now, Putin's war, and many other wars that are being fought around the world that don't make sense. Really, they don't.